So start with the point: education, general wealth building, retirement, whatever it is. There's tools available. This is just another one. Let's see how it stacks up against those.
Welcome to the Fiscal Foxhole, the podcast proving you don't need a degree in finance, just some grit, a game plan, and maybe a sense of humor. Your hosts are retired Army veteran Rob Moore and retired Marine veteran Omen Quelvog. Together, they'll help you dodge financial landmines, call in the air support on your savings, and laugh at the ridiculous money mistakes we've all made. If you can survive mandatory fund days, you can survive personal finance. Welcome to the Foxhole.
Welcome to the Foxhole. I am Omen Quelvog, and here with you, as always, in the new digs, the new Foxhole digs. Probably doesn't look any different to anybody around you, especially in audio land, but did take a little bit of a move upstairs in my new office, so happy to be here. Also happy to welcome somebody who doesn't even look a day over 49, Rob Moore, the birthday boy. Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't look a day over 49. I look a handful of days, quite a few days, a few months, and then some. Feeling it this morning, though, with the mixture of like daylight savings time and kids' activities and everything beginning an hour earlier, which is just the silliest idea. I don't know why we keep doing that, but all of that amounted to this morning. I definitely felt every bit of my age. But thank you. I appreciate you pointing that out. I'm having a good birthday so far. You know, getting the kids out the door to school and activiits, et cetera, dealing with a sick dog, I think.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So she was up half the night. My poor wife had to tend to her. But no, we're all good. Beautiful day here in Virginia. Looking forward to talking about Trump accounts with you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of beautiful days, like the spring has arrived. Walked outside today. It could not be more gorgeous. I mean, absolutely beautiful here in the National Capital Region. Yeah, you already mentioned that we're going to be talking about Trump accounts today. We also have a few other things on the show for you today. Happy for everybody to be joining us, all 3 or 4 of you, whatever that happens to be.
You keep saying that.
I know. Well, I'll tell you who's not listening, and that is my son, who gave up his room as he moved out of the house so that I could have a new office. So I can openly say that because he's not listening to the show. But watch this be the one show that he actually listens to. So that would be amazing. We do have some big things going on in the world today. Outside of beautiful weather in the National Capital Region, we have some things going across the land overseas, right? We've been, as of this podcast recording, we've been around in Iran, kind of mixing it up over there for a little over a week now. And number one, this is a show that is dedicated to the financial education of our military troops and their families. So certainly our thoughts and prayers are with all of them, as I know that this is a little bit different than what we've seen in the past wars in terms of enemy's ability to be able to impact some of our troops with their weapon systems and things like that. So certainly I know it's a scary time. So again, thoughts and prayers with all of our military folks and their families.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Also, a little bit scary time in the markets. Again, as we record this, markets are reacting to surging oil prices over the weekend. And the days previous to the weekend weren't looking all that great either. So, Rob, what are you doing right now with your clients?
Well, first, I'm glad you preempted this discussion with the idea, the service member safety is what we're talking, that's more important than anything. What we do as financial advisors serving the military communities, we're trying to maximize the life's value. And I think the greatest concern is the safety of the life to begin with. And so I'm glad you acknowledged that. So we can go on and talk about more trivial things about how much, gas costs and how much it affects us. I felt it this morning. I filled up my truck when I was running those errands. Noticed like, okay, well, we're back up closer to $60 to fill this pig up. So, hit me personally this morning already. Yeah, markets are reacting. I'm glad what you've cobbled together here in this day in history and the article we're going to talk about both kind of point to that volatility and how we can kind of put that in maybe a broader perspective or a clearer focus as it applies to us.
I think this is the time, as somebody who manages other people's money for them, where I personally think that my job in terms of investment management actually is not that difficult. The difficult job is the behavioral aspect of things. When people see the markets start to go down and they freak out, And this is where we're reaching out to people, not only just clients, but I mean, here on the podcast, we're reaching out as far as we possibly can to say, calm down. It's going to be okay. We have a plan for this. Well, hopefully we have a plan for this. I know we do it with my clients, but if you don't have an investment advisor speaking to into your life right now, hopefully you've got a plan for what happens when the markets go down, because they will go down, as we can see. All right.
I'm going to interrupt you though, to answer your question about like what I'm doing with clients is actually kind of what we're doing here with the podcast. And I know it's kind of landing on market volatility as it's happening. So maybe this isn't the best example, but I think the best time to consider market volatility and think about it is when it's not happening, when the markets are up, or, when everything is fine and stable and everything's behaving like it's supposed to. That's how I handle with my clients is I try to temper their reactions when I meet with them and they're like, hey, the market's doing great. Wow, we have a ton of money. And that's the time I educate them. Like, this too shall pass.
Yeah, right.
There's rougher days ahead. So far, so good. My email inbox has been empty of people freaking out about their investments, which is good. Either I've got the right client or maybe I've said the right thing to them so they can just ride this out without worry. But if you're not sure how to ride that out, like I said, you've brought some stuff together here in this day in history to help us put things in perspective.
Yeah. Well, that's a great lead in. So let's get into this day in history. Rob, it was a busy week in history over the past few years, past few decades. So I couldn't actually just pick one this week. We had to go with a couple of them. The very first one I thought of interest was, and they all have to do with market volatility, actually, which is crazy. So you think March 16th, 2008, Bear Stearns collapses during the financial crisis. Mm-hmm. So we're thinking back to the housing market, that Bear Stearns had been trading near $170, making it one of the earliest and most dramatic dominoes as it plummeted to just $2 per share, $2 from 170. So pretty dramatic indeed. Also, March 16th of 2020, you don't have to look back or think back very far. Where were you March 16th, 2020, when COVID shut down, I would say, the world, right? Because I was over in England and I remember getting orders to stay home. Rob, I don't know what you were doing, but I'm assuming it was something similar.
Funny enough, I remember where I was in 2008 during the financial crisis. Well,
really?
Not Bear Stearns, but I remember when Lehman Brothers collapsed. That was the first domino. That was the first big one. I remember reading, I was on the bus. We were headed over to the White House to do a foreign state arrival ceremony, or we were practicing for one at that time. So I was sitting in front of the White House on the bus reading this on my phone, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a big deal. And of course it was. I also remember where I was March 16, 2020. I was yelling and screaming at the TV because they canceled the Big Ten basketball tournament. And Michigan State was going to win it all that year. They had Cassius Winston. They were going to win everything. I was so mad. Here I am in my insulated, like worried about college basketball. And of course, there's a lot of health concerns and people losing their lives. So I don't mean to trivialize it, but that was my reaction to this. Like, why are we shutting the world down? The Big Ten basketball tournament's going on. Don't they know?
Bro, like I was in the same boat. Like I had missed the Manchester Marathon the year previous because of injury. And I thought, okay, this is my year. This is what it's going to happen. And March 16th, boom, race canceled. Like, oh no. And that was going to be our last chance. And I ended up actually running my own marathon by myself that year. It was the most miserable 26.2 miles I've ever run in my life.
Yeah. I can't imagine running one with you either.
Wife and kids out there every 4 miles handing me things.
Right.
But that is not even, that doesn't even cap it up. So March 19th of 2003 was the beginning of the Iraq War.
Wow.
Wrap this all the way around to where we are right now. It's just incredible what this day in history and this week in history represents. And particularly that one is special to me because I was actually there. I was in Kuwait controlling aircraft, some of the very first aircraft that crossed the line into Iraq. Watching as a lot of missiles were headed that way, and actually watching as a few missiles were headed our way. So that was a really interesting trip back down memory lane as I was looking up all the things that have happened during this week in history.
I want to add to that. I also know where I was March 19th, 2003. I was finishing up grad school, but I was on delayed entry program for the Army at that time. I'd already won the audition for the Army band, and I was waiting they let me finish out my master's degree. So I was down in North Texas watching this unfold, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where am I going? Am I going to DC, or where exactly am I going to be?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, you qualified for the band, but that's out the window.
Yeah, exactly.
You just qualified with a rifle is what you qualified for.
I show up my young, able body, like, like I'm not going to be. They're not going to let me play drums. That's a pipe dream.
That's right.
It all worked out anyway. But hey, I like the fact that the first two of those, the financial crises that you led with, because that's a good tie-in, I think, to the article you're bringing up, because all of this does resonate with today, whether global instability, whether it be safety or financial.
Yeah, and I was actually just listening to somebody else's podcast who I think had probably one of the best lines that I've heard when it comes to the stability or instability of the markets today, right? Today, your investment might be doing poorly today, but what is it going to do tomorrow? We have no idea. It might be doing quite well today, but what is it going to do tomorrow? We can't tell you that. I think that's the bottom line of market instability, as we've come across news headlines of the market crash in 2008, of COVID, of even things like the Iraq war, I'm sure had impacts on the market. But let's get into Iran now with today's headline. Today's headline comes from CNBC, co-authored by Sharon Emerson and Stephanie Dew, titled "Where Investors Can Look for Stability as the Iran War Rattles Markets." Now, this article, we're recording this on Monday, March 9th. This article actually came out on Thursday, March 5th, so 4 days ago, just recently into the Iran war, but we could start to see the effects of the Iran war on the markets at the time that the article was written. From these two authors, war is worrisome. People lose their lives. Property is destroyed. Markets are disrupted, said Blair Desquaney. I did that to myself, didn't I?
You did.
Oh, man. A certified financial planner and chartered financial analyst at Reholtz Wealth Management. Yet she said she reminds concerned clients that while wars can last several years, for the most part, for most people, their investing time horizon is decades, meaning that these wars are temporary. Your investments are usually going to last much longer than the time span of that particular war. So, Rob, as we go through this article, I think the very first point is understanding that markets are going to go through these historical swings. And we can point back to the fact that we have already listed off several moments in history in March, just over the past few years, past few decades, where we have seen the markets swing.
What I like first about this is that she points to wise, sage, timeless advice that applies to almost any scenario, whether it be global instability with regards to safety or economics or anything that moves the market up or down. When it comes to instability or volatility in general, we can point back to multiple episodes of instability and volatility over the last 100 years of the stock market, regardless of why they happened or what the nexus of each one was, because they all tend to behave in very similar ways. And if you're invested wisely based on your goals and what you need over those times, you're going to be just fine. I don't want to spoil the end here. What you have, and we talk about how just always invest towards your goals and don't worry about what the market does, because if we've done the investing towards the goals correctly, we are built to absorb times like this.
I think it's important to bring up like the Rumsfeld doctrine, right? The known is that markets are going to swing. The known unknown is when and how much. We have no idea. Mm-hmm. But the best thing that we can do here is write down a plan for what we're going to do in those market swings. We often call that an investment policy statement. It can be 1 page, it can be 10 pages. It's totally up to you, but it's your outline of how you're going to react. Like, what are the goals for your investments? And when you have those goals for the investments, then you know how to react when markets go up and or down. So the question is that I would have for not necessarily you, Rob, but anybody that we ever talk to is, has that actually changed? Number one, do you have a plan? Number two, has your plan changed? Or do you just simply not like market downturns? Because nobody likes market downturns.
There's a lot to chew on there with those questions. I like hidden in your questions is the point that the IPS, the investment policy statement, or whatever your written plan or decision is built around whatever you need it to be, the goals. Like I said, whatever the goal is, retirement, buying an RV, or you name it, whatever it is, we're going to create a portfolio built around the goals. We're not building a portfolio to react to market downturns or market swoons or market swells or whatever, like whatever the market does. That's not the time to build a portfolio. And it's based on that, because to the Rumsfeld doctrine point, the unknown unknowns are what's going to cause these things to happen. We know they happen, but it could be war. It could be, oil crisis, or it could be, whatever, just a general
Black
recession
swan.
it could be the market, just a correction event. But I want to bring up one really critical thing. It's part of the investment education webinar that I used to give. I still kind of give to my clients that really want it, is the 10 best days of the last 20 years in the stock market were all during market downturns. All of them. Yeah. Every single one. Like they're during the worst times, whether it be the tech bubble, whether it be the housing crisis, or whether it been COVID. Those were the times when the best daily returns of the stock market occurred during those recoveries. So for people that are reacting to market downturns, you're in a lot of trouble, and you could miss out on big one-day gains and the recovery as they come back.
This article then rolls into some of the time frames associated with the goals that would determine your best options. So if you are worried about your investments in the market on the downturn because you need them next week,
right,
they probably shouldn't be in the market, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of what we're getting at, is setting up yourself so that the anxiety of market downturns don't have necessarily the effect. When this is the thing that drives me actually crazy, is people say, I lost so much money in the market. Well, did you lose money in the market? Right? Like you have to realize those losses by selling it off. But you didn't actually lose money until you sell it. And so you're watching your value go down. Yes, absolutely. And that is a real thing. But there's a difference when you know you have a timeline to recover from that. And if you don't have the timeline to recover from that, then you probably shouldn't be in the market. You should probably be somewhere else. So this article lines that out to say, like, if you need that money in the next 30 days, checking account, hands down, put it in your checking account. If you need it in the next 3 to 6 months, this is your emergency fund, most likely. A high yield savings account works great for those kinds of things. After that, we have 6 months to 2 years. So we're talking short-term treasuries, bonds, CDs, somewhat related to the stock market, but you can expect that your risk level there is significantly lower. I mean, even in those short-term treasuries, that's what we refer to as the risk-free rate. It's literally in the name, right? So this is where we would focus in on money that you need in the next 1, 2, 3 years while you're waiting for a market downturn to recover again.
Let me put a functional label on all of these different buckets. I like what she pointed out here. The next 30 days checking account, that's your operational fund. You're paying bills, et cetera. You're buying groceries in that's what your day-to-day living. The 30 days to 6 months, that's your emergency fund that we talk about often, right? And then the 6 month to 2 years, that's an interesting bucket. We haven't talked about it too much. So that could be the car purchase you have to make in 2 years and you got the money for it. That's a good thing. But the most common use of this is that the retirement income bucket of the next 3 years. So if you're hitting retirement age and you need to count on that 3 year window of income, she says she stretches it to 2. I would go all the way to 3. Then your short-term treasuries, bonds, CDs, they might go down a little bit. The bonds might go down in that 3 year, but the idea is it's not going to go down as much as the market in their 3 year bucket of income is not going to be hosed during market downturns. I use 3 years because that's probably going to capture any market downturn that we reasonably expect to happen. So you're probably going to be able to recover within 3 years.
And I think it should be said as well that you wouldn't expect the value of treasuries, bonds, and CDs to go down very much, but you also wouldn't expect them to go up very much either.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So you're expecting a more stable income over those few years. And then the last part of this, the article writes 2+ years. So Rob and I would say 3+ years or so. But this is the money that you actually have invested, because when people retire, whatever age that is, if it's 55, 60, 65, whatever age you retire, you still have a lot of life, hopefully, to live, right? So if you think that you are taking less risk by moving all of your money to CDs, treasuries, and bonds, well, actually, you are still taking risk that you outlive your money. Mm-hmm. So we still have to have this expectation of growth within your investments, that you put that money out way out into the future, which gives it the opportunity to grow, which then supports you to the end of your age.
I just want to hammer that point. I'm not going to spend long, but I think that is a really, really important takeaway. As you're falling asleep listening to this, what Omen just said about taking low risk for a longer time horizon, that is not safety. You do have to accept some risks so you can experience the growth that we reasonably depend on, so you can use your money in the future versus inflation.
So we'll end the news segment with this bottom line. I personally like to use the market downturns as kind of the really good evaluation period of how solid is your investment policy statement. What does your plan actually look like? Because this is the point where you're kind of getting real with yourself about, like, how do you actually feel about the markets and their downturns? And you're not riding the high of my investments are doing great. Like we get to the end of 2025, you're like, man, I had this incredible gain at the end of 2025. Of course, I'm going to write this investment policy statement that's 100% equities. Right. You're like, well, yeah. Again, this too shall pass. So this might be a great time to actually reevaluate your plan and make sure that it's appropriate for you. All right, let's head into the rest of the episode with Trump accounts. Rob, we mentioned the commercial during the Super Bowl. It was just before or just into the first quarter of the Super Bowl on Trump accounts. And I mentioned at that time, I was a little bit surprised because it really focused in on education, freedom in funding kids' education through these Trump accounts. So knowing what I know now about Trump accounts, I don't think that that's necessarily accurate. There is definitely a use for it there. We'll talk through that a little bit more. But I thought that there was enough confusion around Trump accounts, particularly as people file their taxes and they may or may not have an option to check a box that says, would you like to sign up for a Trump account? It's called Form 4547, if you know what that means. So we're going to go through some of these various rules and give options, because this is just another tool in your tool belt to be able to save for your kids. If it's appropriate, I don't know. Like, we'll talk through all of those things about maybe how to look for whether or not it's appropriate for your kids. But I'm actually really excited about this episode.
I think it's a good one and timely to have at this point. He brought it up in the Super Bowl. There was an ad. Trump brought it up in the State of the Union address as well. So, there's a lot of momentum behind it from the executive side of things. And these are kind of formulating as we go. So I want to put a disclaimer real quick that this is as we know it today. I wrote an article about this last year after the Trump accounts were announced. And it was the information that was available at the time, plus some common sense assumptions that we had about them. And I went back and read it in preparation for this podcast recording. It is out of date. It is not good. So I'm actually going to pull the thing down because it makes some mistakes in assuming on how these are going to be taxed coming out or what could be taxed for. So there's been a lot of movement, a lot of adjustments. I imagine that's probably not done. As you know, some of the inefficiencies that we're about to point out maybe get ironed out or addressed. There might be more changes to come. So please just mark the date, note the date of this podcast, and understand that future adjustments are pending. I assume.
Yeah, I can only assume that we're going to have another podcast, an updated podcast on Trump accounts once people actually start using them, because you can't use them. You can open it right now, but there's actually no institution that you can fund until after July. at least as far as we know. So I fully expect things to change. And I had a very similar experience actually making an assumption based on information I read after Trump accounts were announced, a comment in a forum that I had made that was actually misinformed because the rules had already changed.
Right.
Like you just can't keep up with all the rules. So we'll go through this little by little as we know it today. And the very first point here is, what is a Trump account? So Rob, at a basic level, what is a Trump account?
Generally speaking, it's a government-created savings account for a child that is legally set up and basically operates like a traditional IRA. At its heart, it's meant to, well, it was intended to operate sort of like a Swiss Army wealth-building tool for young children before they turn 18, which I think is a wonderful idea. I think it's great because we've seen time and time again how wealth is built over time. And so if you get that extra head start prior to age 18, it's just magic. So I think that's a great idea, well intended. The other part of this that is really wonderful is that there is a $1,000 seed money available to children born after December 31st, 2024 and before January 1st, 2029. Must be a U.S. citizen, must have a social security number. I think last I looked up, at least one parent has to have a social security number, which makes sense that the child would have a social security number then. But yeah, that's the base facts of it. Going into, just real quick, the growth period, it grows until the child turns 18, in which case it becomes their property. And I don't know, do we want to go into too much of you want to go ahead and jump into what is inside them?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I think let's go back a little bit because the thing that really
I know I was going ahead of you.
No, it's all right. Like the thing that really changed from your article when you first wrote it, and even mine when I first wrote it, was the fact that it is now a traditional IRA. Like
right.
The chassis that it rides on is the chassis of a traditional IRA. That at its core level is what changed the rules around the assumptions that we made around what kids could actually do with the money once they turned 18. Is once they turned this into a traditional IRA, now all of a sudden, oh, okay, so now all the rules in terms of distributions apply to a traditional IRA in terms of age 59 and a half and all the exceptions in terms of education and first home buyer and healthcare and all these other things. All these other rules are now slapped onto this traditional IRA. So that I think was a really significant point to note when it changed, but definitely a significant note to everyone now. That is what it is. When your kid turns 18, it is nothing more than a traditional IRA. But Rob, to your point, I love the fact that you can start that clock so much earlier. I mean, how many conversations have we had with our kids of please start putting $50 a month into a Roth IRA, please. And nothing. So this at least gives you the ability to do it for them.
Yeah. And going back to what you said about that now it's the traditional IRA, that was kind of the bummer that changed, because going back to what I said about how it was intended to be this kind of catch-all savings vehicle, it was also intended to help young adults start a business, right? That was really cool, because there's nothing like that outside of UGMAs or, a parent gift that was available as a tax deferred vehicle. Looks like that's not going to be an option because now it's just a traditional IRA. There are a few other unique aspects about the Trump account I think we should hit before we move on. In addition to the $1,000 government seed money that's available to all the children we mentioned before, there's up to $5,000 can be contributed to the account annually from all sources. And that includes up to $2,500 from the employer of the parent. So that's a really neat feature. We'll get into the tax treatments of these contributions later, but the employer can get up to $2,500, and then you could fill up the rest of the $5,000, or you could do the entire $5,000 per year per child. And then one last note, the interesting thing is the investments within the Trump account are limited to low-cost ETFs, index funds based on U.S. markets, which is great. That's awesome. It kind of prevents people from trying to seek out weird investments or, play weird investing games with their children's money. So that's a really good benefit. I do like that, even though I'm not a fan of limitations, but to me, that seems like a good one.
Yeah. So a couple things here. First is on the investment types. I mean, we had a show just a few shows ago. We talked about private equity and retirement accounts. Mm-hmm. This won't be one of them.
Right.
Like, I love that fact. Yeah. Just keep it simple, keep it very vanilla. And I'm sure that these accounts are going to do just fine. One of the other things I wanted to mention, though, is when you make contributions to the Trump accounts, what kind of money are you making contributions with? If it's not from your employer, if it's coming from you or a grandparent or something, what kind of money is it?
So here's where we get a little off the rails with the benefit of a Trump account. This is the first kind of flaw. I think it's the biggest one, is that contributions go in after tax. So these are after tax contributions to a traditional IRA, which I have strong feelings about. So bottom line is, what that means is this is similar to if you were invested into a Roth IRA. So you've already paid tax on it. You get it. You're going to pay tax on it. And then it goes into the Trump account after tax.
This is going to create some complexities for sure. I had this, I certainly did not come up with this myself, but I had this picture in my head about when you combine pre-tax and after-tax money in the same IRA, you're putting cream in the coffee. It mixes up, but you'll never get that back out again. Mm-hmm. And so you've got basis for the after-tax money that you've put in. You're going to have gains based on the after-tax money that you have. And then if you decide as an 18-year-old that you're going to continue to contribute to a traditional IRA for some reason, now all of a sudden you're going to mix that with pre-tax money, which none of it has been taxed. I mean, it could turn into a hot mess. So this is going to take a lot of planning effort on your part if you decide to do Trump accounts. Number one, to track the basis, track how much after-tax money has actually been contributed to these accounts over the course of the long term. It could present a very nice planning opportunity later on when the child turns 18. Yep. For maybe, and the account becomes theirs. I mean, how much money were you making when you were 18 years old, Rob?
Right.
and there's no income limits on conversions, Roth conversions, right? Like, it's not like you have to make $7,000 to do a $7,000 conversion. You can convert everything. That is not a recommendation. Have a look at what the tax impact would be. But most clients who are 18, or most people who are 18 don't have a significant amount of income that would cause them to have a huge tax bill if they suddenly convert over the course of the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, even some amount of this money into a Roth account.
You're falling into the trap that we always do, which is we when we talk about anything, we want to talk about everything. And I don't blame you. Yeah. I mean, I do that too, because there's so much here. Let me pull back a little bit. Let's just talk about the basis to begin with, because I know if you're a listener to the show, we've talked about basis before, but Omen, to your point, that's the most critical part. So if you're putting in $5,000 a year, you just need to be able to track this basis and make sure you recognize that you put the seed money in, because the money will grow tax-free. Oh, I should say tax-deferred, right? But the amount that you take out, regardless of the reason, whenever it comes out, part of that needs to be of the basis, and that comes out tax-free. The basis will always come out tax-free. The gain will come out and it'll be taxed or penalized based on, when you decide to take it out or why. This episode is brought to you by the Military Financial Advisors Association.
MFAA is a global network of independent, fee-only fiduciary financial advisors who specialize in serving military families.
And we're not just highlighting it. Omen and I are members ourselves, so we know firsthand what they stand for.
That's right. Every member of MFAA is either active duty, a veteran, or a military spouse, so they truly understand the unique financial challenges that come with military life.
Plus, every advisor must hold or be actively pursuing the CFP designation, which is the gold standard in financial planning.
So let's put that together. When you choose an advisor with MFAA, you are getting a professional who won't sell you a product, who knows the military life, and will plan using your hard-earned military benefits.
Whether you're navigating a step out of the military after 4 years, a military retirement, or a transition into a work-optional lifestyle, MFAA advisors speak your language.
Visit militaryfinancialadvisors.org to find an advisor who fits your mission.
MFAA, real advice, real experience.
This advertisement is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. All investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Information and opinions provided within the Fiscal Foxhole do not necessarily reflect official positions or opinions of the Military Financial Advisors Association or its members. Consult a qualified financial professional before making any financial decisions.
I'm going to take your point, run with it. I want to talk more about Roth conversions later, because I think that's the strongest argument for a Trump account. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about after-tax contributions to a Trump account or an IRA. All right. Let's just think about why IRAs in general, tax deferred or Roth, are a really good idea. When you put money into a tax deferred IRA, the normal traditional IRA, you're getting the tax break up front, right? You're not going to pay income tax. And then when it comes out, you have to pay taxes on it, but you get that tax break. If you're doing it with a Roth, you have to pay taxes on the money going in, but when you take it out, you get the tax break when it comes out. The problem I have with making after-tax contributions to a traditional or tax-deferred IRA is you're paying income tax on the money going in, and then you're going to end up paying income tax on all of the growth. And to me, when you have a brokerage account available to you where you can put money in after tax as much as you want, and then you end up paying income tax only on non-qualified dividends or interest, which if you're invested in the S&P, there's no interest, and the non-qualified dividends is like less than 2% of the dividends that happen in there. Everything coming out is going to be long-term capital gains or dividends, which are taxed at very nice rates. Very good. Yep. So I don't know why you would do an after-tax contribution to a traditional IRA only to pay income tax on all of it coming out. Well, aside from the basis, right? So every time I hear like after-tax contributions to an account that's going to come out and be taxed as income, the hair on the back of my neck sticks up. I don't understand, aside from the possibility of doing Roth conversions, which was your ultimate point and which we'll get to.
So I want to actually bring this back to the Super Bowl commercial, because the emphasis there was on education. And so there is actually, when we look at the exceptions to distributions from an IRA before you turn 59 and a half, it's actually a rather lengthy list. So we won't get into all of those right now, but specifically for education, it's allowed. You can take distributions from an IRA for educational expenses before 59 and a half. But you're going to pay tax.
Yeah.
You're going to pay tax.
Income tax. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You won't pay the penalty, the 10% penalty, but you're going to pay tax on the gains.
Yeah.
On the gains. All right. So anyway, track your basis. That's what we'll kind of leave that with.
Are we gonna talk about alternatives at some point?
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about some
good.
alternatives.
That's a really good point you just brought up about the education. Obviously, we'll dig into that.
So before we move on, Rob, do you have any other points to the structure of the Trump account? Like what actually a Trump account is? Do you have any other points on that?
No, I think I think it's hard, again, just to keep it simple because there's so much wrapped into it. But just remember, money goes in after tax, comes out, and taxes income is treated like a traditional IRA. That's the heart of it. Yeah.
All right. So next point then is we've got another tool for the tool belt. And when it comes to parents helping their kids, you actually do have quite a few tools at your disposal to use. And now you've got another one. You've got the Trump accounts to be able to do this. The most critical question in my mind is, what is the ultimate goal that you're trying to accomplish? Because this isn't a Swiss Army knife account. The Trump account is not a Swiss Army knife. It's there to do a very specific purpose. So is a 529 account. So is a Uniform Transfer to Minor Act account. So is even a Roth IRA, for that matter, if your kids can open one up. You name the tool at your disposal, there are specific purposes that they are best used for. You can use some of these accounts for other things. The question is, should you? Are they the most efficient? Are you going to have to create a bunch of workarounds? Like, are you making your life a lot more miserable than it has to be because you get wrapped up around the new shiny object that is a Trump account? And I'm not trying, Rob, here. I should probably say, I'm not trying to poo-poo Trump accounts. There are some good ways to use them, right? But I think it's being advertised as kind of the catch-all. This is going to be a really good thing for a lot of different purposes. And actually, once you start to dig in, maybe not so much.
Well, that's what it was supposed to be from the jump, which I loved. I love the idea of like, hey, let's just create a general wealth building tool for young kids. And it just kind of got filtered and found the pigeonhole or found the wedge of the traditional IRA and just got put there instead of like this, the other thing it could have been, which I thought it was going to be. But yeah, there are uses. There's one use I think we both have in mind, which is really good. But I love the way you start this. What's the goal? Start with that. Like, no matter what. And I'm going to say this too. Be careful. If you love Trump or you hate Trump, that should not be your decision to use a Trump account.
No.
But if you love him and you're like, oh, I absolutely want to use it because it says Trump, or you're like, I hate him, and no, there's no way I would ever do this. I wouldn't even take the $1,000 free dollars, which would be absurd to not take the $1,000 free dollars because of how you feel about it. So start with the point: education, general wealth building, retirement, whatever it is. There's tools available. This is just another one. Let's see how it stacks up against those.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a couple of things as you talked about. That's not how Trump accounts started. Number one, the movie Pentagon Wars.
I don't know that one.
What?
No.
Tell me you've never seen Pentagon Wars? Have we been through this before?
No, we haven't. No, I've never seen Pentagon Wars.
Rob, I don't know if we can do this podcast together anymore.
All right. Technical difficulties.
All right. Yeah. Put that on your list. Like, that is a definitely must do to do. All right. So after you get done watching the Pentagon Wars, let's have another episode to talk about just that.
Fair enough. Okay.
The next thing that occurred to me while you spoke about how Trump accounts have evolved since the day that they first came out was the rule of thumb in acquisitions, government acquisitions. And that is you can get things good, fast, and cheap. Pick two of the three. That's it. So you're always going to have some kind of downside to whatever it is. And the Trump accounts, I think, is no exception. And I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with this and play kind of a matching game in terms of what account would you use to maybe fund some of these goals. And we can play around also with the Trump account, like kind of play this back and forth a little bit of if you use the Trump account, what would it look like when you then try to use the money to accomplish that goal?
Yeah, great. Are we going to say it at the same time? That might be fun.
No. I'm asking you the questions here.
Oh, okay, great. All right, fine.
Okay, let's start off with number one. And we did kind of allude to this a little bit earlier in the episode, but funding higher education. All right, let's start with using Trump accounts. How would that look?
So money would go in after tax. Like I said, it would grow tax deferred. And then when used for higher education, it would be that carve out that's allowed for IRAs that could be used for higher education, but it's going to be taxed as income, but you avoid that 10% penalty.
Right. Just the gains. You have to pay the taxes on just the gains.
Good point.
They're viewed as income at the level at which the child's income tax bracket is sitting.
Yeah,
like it still could be 10, 12%, something like that. But yeah. So the other common vehicle used for funding education, most people probably already think about the 529 account.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 529. Yeah. It blows it out of the water for this goal, in my opinion. Right. Money goes in tax-free. Okay. But it operates more like a Roth when used for educational. And I don't mean like you can use how you use Roth for education. I mean, that's how the money comes out. Money, all of it comes out tax-free. All your basis and the gains all comes out tax-free so long as it's used for educational purposes. And there's higher funding limits, how you use the annual exclusion. I mean, it just blows that out of the water as far as a goal. And on top of that, $35,000 of a 529 can be rolled into a Roth IRA. And so, I mean, it's just so much better when it comes to education than a Trump account.
And if you live in a state, because 529s are specific to the state, you might live in a state that gives you some kind of tax break for your contributions into a 529. So here in Virginia, you can receive a tax break for contributions up to $4,000 per child. So it's per 529 account that you have. So if you've got 6 kids and you've got 529s, that's $4,000 times 6. That's an amazing tax opportunity there. So look up the rules for your own specific state, but that is something to look at for sure. All right, next goal, funding a car at age 16. How does that look for Trump accounts?
Not possible because they can't access the funds until age 18. So that's not going to work out for you. The next best one, as I see it, is kicking them in the rear end, get them out and doing jobs where they can save their own money towards a car if they want it. No, it's just not going to work at all. So your best shot at this one is probably money that they are saving in a savings account of their own, or perhaps money that you have set aside that you intend for this goal, that you're saving it in a brokerage account, or maybe a short term. If they're getting close to 16, you're investing in CDs to save that on their behalf in order to give it to them.
All right. Next up, giving your kid a leg up on their own retirement. Trump accounts?
Yeah, it actually, this is where I think the spot where a Trump account can shine. Okay. Because the best long-term retirement savings account that I feel you can use is a Roth, any Roth account, right? Because all the money is going to come out tax-free so long as they're age 59 and a half, et cetera. So I think the best thing you could do for your child is if they have income, if they have any type of earned income, is go ahead and just open that Roth IRA account. A lot of parents, let's say the child earns $4,000 in a year, the parents actually would give them the $4,000 to fund the Roth account up to their earned income limit and let them save and keep whatever the money they've earned. That's a good strategy. They can do that up to their earned income limit, up to $7,500. But then above that, the $5,000 you put into a Trump account, like you said, when they turn 18, that traditional IRA can then start to be converted into a Roth IRA at their income rate at that time, which is probably zero because I mean, you've got the standard deduction, et cetera. And if above that, it's probably only like 10%. So this is really great. If you can do a Roth IRA, do that. And then if you can't do the Trump or if you can do both, that's really great. It's going to set them up for retirement in a really strong way.
Yeah, and this is one of the savings goals here that we don't really have the other option. You've already really named the options of if you're trying to get a leg up on retirement and give your kid a leg up on retirement, having a Trump account and opening up a Roth IRA if they have earned income, like those are great options for them. So we actually wouldn't recommend going any other direction other than maybe using a Trump account if this is your goal. Like this has got to be the goal.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
All right. Next up is the first home down payment. Trump account?
Decent option up to $10,000, but you're going to be taxed as income for that. This is one that I lean more towards. Well, I guess some investors would lean more towards the UTMA UGMA, where they could have access to it when they turn 18. And it's basically a brokerage account or savings account of liquid funds or liquid investments. I would actually push you more towards the save it, give it strategy. When parents ask me the best way to give to their children, the first thing I say is your own financial stability is the best thing you could do for your child. The next thing, if you want to give to them, if we're not talking about retirement, like a Roth IRA, that's a really great one, is just go ahead and save it and keep it and give it to them when it's appropriate. You can give your child $17,000 per parent in 2026 and not even touch your lifetime gift tax exclusion. And even if you went over that, like, okay, it's going to take part of your $15 million lifetime exclusion away, no big deal. So I think there's a lot of value in you saving it, investing it on their behalf, and then you giving it to them when the need arises and it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think actually for 2026, the annual gift exclusion is $19,000 per person.
Oh, you're right.
So
I'm stuck in the past. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just keeps going up and up and up every single year. So definitely something to keep up with. But if you're giving your kids $19,000 a piece, and don't forget, as a married couple, each of you could give your kid $19,000 a piece before you then start to dig into that $15 million lifetime annual exclusion. Good luck. Good night. Yeah. So not a huge deal, but yeah, I love your point there of just saving for them yourself after you have your own financial stability. I mean, we continue to kind of hit on this point of how many clients do we have they're looking after their parents and a little bit worried if their parents are going to outlive their income.
Right.
Give your kids that gift first. But yeah, I love this. We mentioned UTMAs and UGMAs here for a few times, and we've actually already passed up the educational savings, but there's actually an impact here of UTMAs and UGMAs that I don't want to pass up.
Okay.
And that is, if you save into the UTMAs and the UGMAs, what is the effect on saving for education, or not even saving for education, but really if your kids want to apply and go to school and get some kind of financial aid, what is the effect there? Okay.
There's three main concerns with the UTMA UGMA. Let's start with the one you brought up for education. That's the biggest one because it counts against the child's assets on the FAFSA. So the government's going to assume that you are going to contribute as a student at a higher rate of your own assets. So they're going to count anything in an UTMA UGMA because it's the child's at a higher rate than the parent contribution side. So that's ding number one. The other one that I think is really important to take into account is the fact that they have access to it at age 18 and they can do whatever they want. You cannot stop them from taking all of it out and spending it on whatever they want. So there's a total lack of control once they turn into an adult, which I think is the bigger problem. There's another one that people bring up that I think is a much smaller one. That's the kiddie tax. Not a huge deal. That's up to 26. Well, if my numbers are correct, it was a $2,600 per year that they can earn in a investment account on a child before it's taxed at the parent rate. I mean, that's probably going to have to be like a $90,000 balance before you get to that amount of interest churning out per year. So that one's a lower one, the kiddie tax. I wouldn't worry about that so much. But the biggest ones is the FAFSA and the lack of control at 18.
All right. The last one, saving for a wedding. Trump accounts?
No, not at all. That's going to be save it, give it, UTMA, UGMA, save on behalf of the child saves for themselves, et cetera. Those are liquid assets that you don't want wrapped up into a Trump account, IRA, any type of retirement account. So that's similar to the first home down payment minus the $10,000 you could have gotten out of the IRA. Wedding, there's no benefit to a retirement account being in place.
Yeah, you will get not only pay the taxes on that income, but you'll also be penalized if you distribute money for a wedding out of your IRA,
right?
Your traditional IRA, I should mention.
Yeah.
And I think it's important too, just to maybe kind of put these two things together. Remember, let's say you are saving for a wedding into a Trump account and you do decide to take a distribution. Just remember, a lot of that was after tax money that was contributed. So again, the tax and the penalty will only be on the gain. So you absolutely can take it out, but you can't choose to only take out the basis. This isn't a setup like your Roth IRA where the first distributions that you take is your basis. And then after that is conversions. And then after that is your gains. That's not how this works. On the after-tax traditional IRA, it's pro rata rules all the way. So you're always going to be taking out some amount of basis and some amount of your gains. So there's going to exist some kind of income tax and penalty on your distribution.
I'm glad you keep bringing up the basis part of it because I overlook it because I just don't see it as any type of benefit. You're smart, to keep bringing that up. But if you see that, you're like, oh, I get part of it as basis back and there's no income tax on it. I was like, yeah, it's still your money you're getting back that you already paid taxes on. So it's not really that much of a benefit, but it is wise to bring that up. Yes.
All right. So we're going to round out the episode with just these final takeaways about the Trump accounts. They are shiny new objects. They are a little bit interesting. We're kind of, getting up to them, sniffing them a little bit, figuring out what is this actually going to look like. Again, we're still making some assumptions about how they're going to work. We think we have some rules given to us right now. We do have the IRS Notice 2025-68 that we're using at the moment to even make this episode. But who knows how things will change when it's actually implemented and we start to see some of these rules not only go into effect, but then maybe we start to see some of the consequences and people say, you know what, we need to make these tweaks here, make these tweaks there, and see how this all comes around. So Rob, any kind of final shots here?
Yeah, we just wrapping this up on what our final takeaways are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. Number one, get the free money. It's $1,000. I don't care how you feel about it. If it's a good, bad idea, get the free $1,000. That's a no-brainer. But I love what you said. Keep the goal in mind. Start with the goal. What are we trying to achieve? What's the best tool in order to do that? And I think the biggest takeaway on all this is that this is a really good opportunity for potential Roth conversions to get your kid a really good head start towards their retirement and getting money into a after-tax IRA, which then can be converted to a Roth IRA.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this part of the show. Let's move into our trivia segment. This is our trivia challenge between the two of us for the prize of pride and a very cheap trophy that is still sitting over my right shoulder. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate that. This year, we've got the results locked up into a vault that only Rob and I have access to. So be sure to go back and listen to previous episodes if you're trying to keep up with who's won what. We will have a contest towards the end of the year for who can get closest to the number of show wins that we have in our trivia challenge to each other. But outside of that, Rob, we have no rules.
No rules.
You have to wear a shirt. You have to wear a shirt. Right. So we have one rule, right?
We're on video. Are we on video? Yeah.
Yeah. But outside of that rule, I'm going to hand it over to you to ask me the question today.
Great. So I found a good question for us. My tail was wagging when you brought up the day in history about this market volatility, and then the article about market volatility and how the market responds during really tumultuous times. So to tie that into my point about the single day market returns, the largest single day market returns happening during those times, I do have a question for you related to that. I'm really excited to give this one to you. So your question to you, Omen, today is, what was the single greatest one-day percentage gain for the U.S. stock market in the last 40 years? We're talking the S&P 500, by the way, for the benchmark. Okay. Is it A, December 26th, 2018, as policy clarity after a bad year? B, November 10th, 2022, as inflation started to cool? C, November 9th, 2020, after Pfizer announced a COVID-19 vaccine? Or D, October 13th, 2008, during the global financial crisis?
You said gain?
Biggest one-day gain. So basically, are we talking, was it policy clarity after a bad year, inflation cooling, Pfizer announced COVID-19 vaccine, or during the global financial crisis?
This one's a tough one. For some reason, I've got it in my head that it was October of 2028. Because I know October 2028 is actually when the market took its biggest dip.
You heard it here first, guys. In October 2028, we're going to have a massive...
I'm sorry, 2008. Nice catch. 2008. But now I'm trying to rack my brain. Did I actually read that there was a one-day regain?
Well, I'm going to go with it. If you were listening to the earlier in this very episode we just recorded, I talked about single-day returns and when they happened.
Yeah. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with October 2008.
So October 13, 2008 was during the global financial crisis. And that is the day that the S&P surged approximately 11.6% in a single day, the largest one-day gain in modern market history. Well done.
Yeah, get some.
I did. I was hoping you'd get it. It was funny when the AI brought up all of the answers for this. They were all during market downturns. I'm like, well, those are all really, really great days. And I was like, I got to give you some help. So I removed a few and added a few like other ones I think you could have gotten out. But yeah, basically every single great day is during that market downturn. Just one more opportunity to hammer home the point that when stuff gets volatile, stay invested towards your goals.
Whew. Well, I was getting a little bit worried that you're catching up to me, Rob. So hopefully I'm starting to leave you back in the dust. We'll see.
Looks like it.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the Fiscal Foxhole. We hope that, as always, you've taken away something that you can use in your own life, especially as you start to save for your kids in some form or fashion. We appreciate you hanging out with us in the financial trenches. And if you like our show, we'd love it if you wrote a review for us. We do have several new reviews. We appreciate that. And if you know anybody who could use some education about Trump accounts, please share this episode with them. So, Rob, what are our 3 key takeaways today?
Practical takeaways from today's episode. Number 1, market shocks from global events are a stress test for your investment plan. If your strategy only works when markets are rising, is it really a plan? Number 2, we're all curious about Trump accounts, particularly with the $1,000 seed money, which you should get if you are eligible. But as a specialized traditional IRA for kids, these accounts have limited flexibility and restrictions that may not line up with many common goals parents have for their children's money. And key takeaway number 3, the real lesson isn't about one specific account. It's about matching the right financial tool to the goal. Whether it's a 529, UTMA, Roth IRA, or a Trump account, the best choice depends entirely on what you actually want the money to do.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions you'd like answered on the show, please send us a note to fiscalfoxhole@gmail.com. If you heard something today that you'd like to discuss further, or you just want to dig deeper into your own financial game plan, both Rob and Omen are accepting new clients and always happy to chat. You'll find the links to their websites or to book appointments in the show notes. Rob Moore and Omen Quelvog are both registered investment advisor representatives. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. While they are both advisors, they are not your advisors. Therefore, nothing you hear on Fiscal Foxhole should be taken as specific investment, legal, or tax advice. For guidance tailored to your situation, please consult a qualified professional who understands your individual circumstances.
So this is a big birthday for you, right? Because
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you're turning 50.
No,
And there's a lot, there's some,
I'm not.
so we could go nerd out on this one, right? You are turning 50, right?
No, I'm not.
What?
I'm turning
You're
49.
turning 49?
49.
Oh, man. All right. Well, so you got one more year to look forward to. All right. So what are you doing for your birthday?
Oh.
Besides getting frustrated at the kids and being sick with your dog and all kinds of other things.
So the plan was to do a family dinner. That's kind of what I always want. I just want to do something as a family. So, but to your point, they have sick dogs and kids and activities. We got stuff happening every night. So I think we're going to shoot for later this week. Maybe sit down and enjoy a family dinner. I'm never happier than like everyone sitting around the table having dinner. So I'm thinking steaks from Costco. They got the sirloins, which I'm a big fan of those, and they're not crazy expensive. Yeah, and a little bottle of red or something like that. That's on my agenda. They used to have the All-American chocolate cake. Did you ever have that from Costco?
I don't think I have
It
from
was
Costco, but it sounds delicious.
Unbelievable. Well, it's gone. They don't do it anymore. I haven't sold it in like 8 years, but it was this unbelievably large, like chocolate cake. It was a 4-tiered round chocolate. It was the best ever. Their chocolate cake now is pretty good. They have similar to that, but no, that's kind of the plan. But yeah, I'm thinking steak, but I'm not quite sure. What's your go-to meal that you want for your birthday? Inspire me.
Meatloaf. Megan's meatloaf.
Okay, I take it back. I rescind my question. Meatloaf is not you can't say meatloaf.
Yes, 100%.
Is it that
and
good?
It's turkey meatloaf. Yes.
Oh my, come on.
Megan makes an amazing meatloaf.
Yeah.
And then her mashed potatoes, she calls it her mashed potatoes, and some corn. And I am happier than I ever could be.
Man. Well, I regret, I'm happy for you, but I regret asking. Meatloaf.
Group of poor kid, man. This is what we scramble together.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's not too late. I could. Yeah. Good point. Maybe I could put the steaks away. We could do fried bologna sandwiches, or maybe hot dogs on white bread. Fold over the white bread.
You should,
with that in mind. But meatloaf, that's a strong alternative. But I will not take your suggestion.
To each their own.